Welcome back to the podcast and to the latest edition of Tuesday. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. C Money Picks, and we got a bit of a different one here for you today. A little bit of a throwback episode in the style of the earlier days of the Two Blues podcast. Obviously, we are drawing to the close, to the end of the 24-25 Premier League campaign. So we are here today with 2 games remaining to talk best Chelsea team. We will get into the entire best team in the Premier League, best performers, all the accolades. We'll revisit our pre-season predictions as well after the season has concluded. But for now, with a couple of games left, I feel like although things could change, that it's pretty set in stone in terms of the top performers. The majority of positions have been locked down. And Charms, I'm intrigued to hear who you think is the best performer, who your best team would be based on this season alone, the performances that this Chelsea team have put in over the last 36 games. Who do you think our strongest 11 would be, all in terms of, everyone available, everyone fit? I know we've rarely had that this season where everyone's either been A, fit, or B, playing well, but in an ideal situation, we love a hypothetical on this channel. So before we get into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. And obviously, if you haven't already, make sure to go and check us out on Spotify. Go and download the episodes as well. We are available to listen to and watch on Spotify, as well as all of the others. But Charms, before we get into the best team, obviously disappointing result of the weekend. I don't want to dwell on it too much because it will just spiral into a rant of negativity from one of us. I can't tell who. But disappointing, 3 points dropped. As much as you want to sugarcoat it, Nicholas Jackson to blame.
Yeah, I think it took us 50, 60 minutes to kick into gear. And then we started playing, the football that we've been accustomed to playing as of recent weeks, something dynamic, something fun, but with no end product about it. As soon as we were able to really get the cogs turning, we didn't have a striker. We were out of a striker for what felt like the whole game. It was essentially 3/4 of it. And it's just, it's not good enough. I think that the mental's got to be there. And I think that more than anything, the self-awareness, the positional awareness in the table of where we are and how much, we need these points. Every little decision matters from every single one of those players. And the last person I would have expected to put a foot wrong is Nicholas Jackson. I think he's been super consistent, super reliable for us when he's been fit, especially in this season. I can't say the same about last season, but I love the development he's had, and I'm really been impressed with him as a striker. And I wouldn't be mad if we don't go in for a striker in the summer. I want one, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be mad if we didn't. And I think that we've given a lot to Nicholas Jackson, and as both a club and as a fan base, a lot of time to develop, a lot of ability to make mistakes, and we won't hang it over him, and we will let this continue until you come good, because we believe. But when we've got 2 games left, you're on your 36th game of the season, right around the end of it, we need you. If any suspension is going to end the season for you early, when we need our key man up top. So, it's not just a red card that we can work around and find, have Mark Hugh play against fucking this team that's struggling to play against Leicester while Nicholas Jackson's out. It's 3 massive games. We've got a game against United, which I think we've got to win, but it makes it a lot harder when you get rid of our striker. And you got a really difficult game in Arsenal, I do believe it is, on last game of the season. So
Nottingham Forest last game.
Nottingham Forest, that's it. Nottingham Forest. So it one of the only 3 teams above us at the minute in the league, and it's teams that we need to get points out of. It's games that we need to win, especially if we're going to keep this, I guess, dream of Europe alive. I mean, I've been pretty confident we're going to get a European position pretty much the whole time. I haven't been too concerned. Now we're round the bend of it with no strikers, with 2 hard games left to play. I really do find it difficult to feel as comfortable, and I think that Nicholas Jackson is to blame for that. But overall, just disappointed with someone that I expected a lot more from mentally, and I think the challenge itself, if we're going to do it, was pointless. It's in the centre of the field, not much to go about it, and it is a red card. I want to defend it, and I did think, to be honest, it was quite soft at first, but then you watch the replay, and you're thinking dangerous conduct. If it goes to VAR, you're gone, and he went to VAR. And he's gone, and I can't blame the officials for it.
Yeah, at a bare minimum, he's given the officials something to think about. It's a silly challenge. Why put yourself in that situation? Why give the refs an opportunity to give you a red card with the atmosphere of, St James's Park. It's always going to be a possibility in a game with a crowd like that. But yeah, undoubtedly a red card, really stupid decision. And yeah, as you said, really, really costly mistake. Not just 3 points that it's cost us. Ultimately, we did play better in the second half. And I think had we had 11 players and the momentum had not have swung that way, we might have got something from the game. We might have left St James's Park. We might have left Newcastle with a point. But, with the situation being what it was, I think it was always going to be a very, very tough ask for this Chelsea side to score without a striker. We've seen over the last couple of months how difficult it is when you take Nicholas Jackson out of there. Christopher Nkunku, non-existent in this squad at the moment. Mark Yu, as you mentioned, obviously injured at the moment, so not able to contribute. The one thing you did say, though, which I just want to clarify if you meant or if you misspoke, did you say you said you wouldn't be upset if we didn't sign a striker this summer?
Not really. I mean, listen, I've had enough faith in Nicholas Jackson for 2 seasons now, and I think that his link up with Palmer has been something that's one of one. I think that when they're both fit and both able, I think that's the best duo going forward in the Premier League. Obviously, Salah's probably the best player, but who's he playing off? Darwin fucking Núñez. Do you know what I mean? What a centre mid? Do you know what I mean? It's like that as an attacking duo, that's Bonnie and Clyde going forward. They're danger, and if you bring a new striker into a mix like an Osimhen, there's a high chance it goes well. Don't get me wrong.
I think, and obviously I know availability comes into it, but I mean, Jacob Murphy and Alexander Isak are that duo in the Premier League. They have the most goal contributions together now.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I also think that comes down to the fact that Nicholas Jackson had 3 months off out of the Premier League, right? Yeah. Before that, before the injury going into January at the back end of December, the stats said different. But I understand your point. I don't think that. I think that dynamic works, and I think that when you add a new striker, particularly a high value striker like an Osimhen, like one of these players we're looking at, like a Gyökeres, if it doesn't work immediately, it's gonna have serious questions asked about it, and it's gonna hold us back. I mean, the questions have been asked for Nicholas Jackson, and he's answered them. And we've had little blips in his form, we have blips in his finishing, we have blips in his touch-up points. We never have blips in his heart, in his commitment, his dedication to improve. Those things that can get better have been getting better. So as much as it might be a little bit like, what is this geezer talking about? I'm not mad if we don't sign a striker, because we've made worse decisions in worse places in our sort of tenure.
I don't disagree there, but I do disagree that I would be upset if we didn't sign a striker in the summer window. And I think that comes with the expectation that Christopher Nkunku is going out. So it is going to be one in, one out. It's not necessarily recruiting for recruitment's sake, but I do think a number 9, a Gyökeres is needed, a profile striker. But you'll have to stay tuned for that episode. You'll have to wait until the season concludes before the transfer window opens and the rumours start hitting up. And we'll start talking about who should Chelsea sign, who should Chelsea sell. We'll get into all of those. Make sure that you keep your eyes on socials as well, because no doubt we'll be dropping a lot of teasers across the way. But yeah, moving away from that game, and obviously we will kind of touch on it at points, as we delve a little bit more into detail on these players. But yeah, go on then. Best team this season. So we're talking, hypothetically speaking, every single Chelsea player in the squad currently is fit and available. Who do you think, based on this season, 24-25 performances, who do you think is our best 11? And obviously, I'll give you a minute, but, starting from the back, there are only 2 options, Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen. Robert Sanchez, mistake-strewn season, but he has managed to keep the number 1 position somehow. Whether he's still got blackmail, whether he's still got dirt on Enzo Maresca. I mean, the extortion fees must be astronomical at this point. He must be paying millions of pounds a week to not leak these classified documents. But he's managed to keep his number 1 position. Is that how you see it in your eyes as well in this squad? Or has Philip Jorgensen done enough in the Conference League to justify, in your eyes, being our best keeper?
It's just a rock in a hard place, because I feel like I've seen more mistakes from Robert Sanchez. I've seen mistakes from both. Let that be known. Like, I'm not best impressed with both of them. But I feel like with Robert Sanchez, where I've seen more mistakes, I've seen him against higher quality of competition, and it's not nice to see us losing 2-1 to teams like Servette, which I can't just blame Jorgensen, but we weren't just getting peppered, 16 shots against us on target. We conceded about 3 shots off on us, and 2 of them went in. And it's small games like that, like conceding pretty much every game in the Europa Conference League against like Copenhagen and these man, Djurgården. Like, what are we doing? And it makes it hard for me to not pick Robert Sanchez, because if he was in those competitions, we pick up an extra couple of clean sheets, and it doesn't matter at all. But when you when you boil it down to it, brass tacks, I think the management's in agreement with it. I think I've been kind of shut up about it, but I think Robert Sanchez is the better of the two. But yeah, I don't think he's the best goalkeeper signed to Chelsea at the minute, but I think he's the best one that's currently at Chelsea. So if you're going to do who's been playing with us all season, I guess Robert Sanchez has somehow whittled his way into a team of the season of some sort. So yeah, I guess he started in this one. I think that the back line is pretty easy to get starting with as well. I think that the 2 fullbacks have done enough this season. I understand, players like Caicedo have slipped into right back at times, and I did think about that. Maybe if I wanted to involve a Lavia, involve an Enzo, something like that, but I just can't, because Reece James, when he's there, when he's available, he's just too good. And I have to have Reece James at right back. I mean, it might be, not enough in the season seen of him. Obviously coming back for the injury, but since he has come back, he's looked sharp. He's looked good in the games he's played. He looks.
I think it's 23, 24 games he's played this season, and obviously not full 90 minutes, but
yeah,
massive increase on last year.
Yeah, exactly that, right? And I think we've seen a lot more of him than we did last year, and I think that's obviously to our benefit. When he's on form, he's best right back in the world, let alone the league. So yeah, I've got to give it to Reece James at right back, and even more confidently left back. And I don't even think this even needs to be said, but Marc Cucurella has been absolutely fantastic. He's arguably been our player of the season, So yeah, I would have to say Marc Cucurella. And now the centre backs is where it's interesting. I know my two. I'm pretty confident of my two. I want to flip the script a little bit, and I want to pose it back at you, because I feel like centre back is the one where we start to have a maybe not difference in opinion, but it can definitely be argued. So go on, tell me your 2 centre backs who you put in there. Now, obviously, assuming that you haven't changed the right or the left back.
No, I'd keep the right and left back. I agree with that. I think, yeah, while you do have a case for Caicedo in the right back, because he is just so exceptional there when he does play there, at the end of the day, he's not a right back. His best position is centre of midfield, where he does dominate and is the best in his position in the world, not just the Premier League. Let's not get that twisted. But yeah, fantastic to see Reece James at right back playing a little bit more freely, a little bit more injury free, shall we say, a little bit more consistently. Even though we haven't seen, the 90-minute performances, we got to start somewhere. Enzo Maresca, I think, has done a good job not to overload him. And while some Chelsea fans have been there, oh, he can play this week, I'd rather, have the situation that we do have at the moment, where he is readily available, and we don't necessarily use it. We call on him in games like Newcastle, came on, calmed the game down, and we actually, performed. I thought he did very well in the second half. And, yeah, a lot more cohesiveness, a lot more togetherness when Reece James is on the pitch. I do think he has that ability to calm us down, and obviously one of the more experienced players in this young squad. And Cucurella, I don't know about player of the season, because I mean, Moises Caicedo has taken that to the bank every single day of the week and twice on a Sunday, but I think he's got a case for most improved. I think I'd probably give it to someone else, maybe because it was kind of the back end of, it was kind of the last 6 months of last year as well, where Cucurella had a really, really good end to the season. So, and I think that level he's definitely continued. But I think if you're looking at the jump between last and this season, maybe there are a couple of other players who have had a little bit more of an impact. But I will say he's definitely up there. He's definitely top 3 of most improved, and definitely top 3 of best players for Chelsea this season.
And just before you go into your centre backs, is the most improved, in your opinion, Enzo Fernandez?
I think so at the moment. I think he's number 1. I think Noni Madueke is 2. And then Noni and Cucu are neck and neck. I think Noni's had a bigger jump this season, but Cucu has obviously been a lot more consistent, and his level has been... I'll tell you what, from 2 seasons ago, Cucurella has undoubtedly been the most improved. From the start of last season, no player has turned it around and turned his favour around. I used to absolutely hate. You can go back to some of the early.
I know. I remember we were both pretty bad. Hate
this guy, man. But yeah, he's done fantastically well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't just say very quickly that I don't agree with the goalkeeper. I would take Jorgensen.
Wow.
I think
Wow.
you know what, and I think it is a boring thing to say because I can't disagree with a lot of the things that you said. And yes, he does have so much higher highs, but it's just because the lows are so much lower. And like, even though, and people were saying after the game at the weekend that he had a good game, he saved us, could have been four, whatever. We lost 2-0. He didn't save the two goals that went in, and his distribution was just diabolical yet again. I just don't understand
Did make a couple of
how he
like
continues to
game-changing
play.
saves 2 matches ago, though, I will say.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's had a really, really good, I think, last month or so. I think he's really,
Mm.
really bucked his ideas up. It is kind of like they are competing to play in that UEFA Conference League final. It is kind of like Maresca said, go out there, go performance for performance, and see who comes out with a better month. But for me, I feel like yeah, the lows just ain't worth it. I've never seen a goalkeeper commit that many mistakes leading to or errors leading to goals. Never seen a keeper give so many hospital passes. Never seen a defense so frightened to pass to a goalkeeper. Yeah, in my lifetime at least, I've never been less confident in a goalkeeper. For that reason
Wow.
alone, I can't put Robert Sanchez in my 11. But
Big
yeah, all
words.
credit to him. He's had a good last few weeks, and yeah, I hope he gets the move he deserves this summer. Let's just leave it at that, and we'll rejoin us on the
Jesus.
transfer episode, but we might go a little bit more in. But centre backs, you said yours is fairly self-explanatory. I think I don't know. I've got an inkling. I think we probably share one of the two.
Yeah.
On the left side, I'm going Levi Colwill. I think there has been moments this season where I have kind of wondered. His performances have kind of stuttered. The odd time earlier on in the season, he was kind of one every 3-4 games. He'd kind of put a couple of feet wrong, and you think, he'll get away with it. And then the next game, he'd maybe have a bit of a poor performance, and you thought, oh, can he bring it back? I don't think he's been as consistent and as promising as maybe even last year. But I think yesterday he was fantastic. I think he has put in some really good performances that have gone under the radar, even in performances, even in games that maybe we've lost. I think he has. He is still improving, and I think he's got a lot to learn, a lot to do. He's obviously still very young, very hot headed. But that will come with age, that will come with experience. And I think he's benefited from having the other centre back next to him, who I would choose is in Trevor Chalobah. I think the experience that he's brought in the second half of the season has been vital. I'd be hard pressed to not mention Tosin as well. I think Tosin, particularly in the last couple of weeks, I think he's really slotted into the uncle role of this young squad. I think he's really, really bonded with the
Yeah.
young players. And in the last couple of weeks, I think his passing range in the Conference League, I know, we cite the level of opposition, whatever. I think his passing range has been superb, being able to split the lines, thread that ball through the midfield. I think he does that fantastically. And yeah, there's a couple of contenders, Wesley Fofana. I think had he played an entire season, I think I'd definitely I'd 100% be considering him and probably be picking him. But again, it's just availability is the best ability. And, it's got to a point where we've had to go back and recall one of the players that we sent out on loan because this guy can't stay bloody fit. So, yeah. For me,
Yeah.
Trevor Chalobah as our saviour, and obviously as Cobham Academy graduate, slightly partial to him there. But that's my centre-back pairing. Colwell on the left, Chalobah on the right. What about you?
Yeah, well, we can agree with Chalobah on the right. I feel like that was the one that you knew was stapled in there. He's just been excellent since he's come back into the fold. Listen, I wanted to echo everything you said. I want to pick Fofana, I really do, because I think that out of all the other centre backs, probably the most technically able, probably the highest potential out of the lot. It's just when I'm picking between Colwell and Tosin, my issue is I don't trust Colwell and I trust Tosin. And I'm talking about like small things like winning the ball back and just making the right pass. And I just feel like there's been times this season I felt like Colwell's been off it. And then I've waited to, I've thought this is an off game. And then I've seen it again a week later. And then he's followed it up with a good week, with a great week where he looked solid. But I just feel like I don't really realise how many performances I've not been impressed with until I look back and I'm thinking, there's been a few times where I've been a bit, what is happening? Like what with Levi Colwill and with Tosin, it felt like a bit of a slow start. But as you said, the way he's like merged himself into the club, shout out Sun Exotic, by the way, every flipping time, by the way, pineapple coconut, the greatest beverage in human history. But yeah, man, yeah, I think that Tosin's got to have it. Just based on the fact that he's been consistent when he's there. You know what you're getting. You're getting, and not like Badiashile consistent where he's a 5 every week, he's a 7 every week. He's all right. And I like that. I like the fact that I know he's going to be all right. He's going to be strong. He's going to be solid. He's going to work off of Chalobah well. And I think that they do that. It's not maybe the best pairing, but I think that if you're looking at individual centre-backs, they're the two best individual centre-backs at the minute that we have. So I've got to give it to both of them, Chalobah and Tosin.
Fair enough. You're going with the old heads.
We got, well,
Uncle's on the scene.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Daddy's in town. He's 29, by the way. He's literally not 30, and he's an unk, but football's a hard sport.
That's how he gets in this Chelsea squad. Yeah, I think
you,
over 24 in that dressing room, you're unk status.
The way I'm granddad there, fam, it's mad. I'm a YG, man.
It's crazy. But yeah, no, virtually the same back four. I wasn't expecting you to pick Tosin. I thought you might be leaning towards Fofana. But yeah, I was expecting you to pick Chalobah.
Yeah, it's just the injury, bro. Like that, well, that's it. You know what I mean? But ability wise, I love Wes, man. It's my favourite English centre.
100%. Let's move into the midfield then. What are you telling me on in the centre of midfield?
I'm sorry, but
the three.
It's difficult to not involve Latvia, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of them ones. I have to go with Caicedo, who's been excellent, Enzo, who's been excellent, and I'm going with Cole Palmer, man, because I don't care. I don't get because like form is temporary. You know what I mean? Class is permanent. Get that in your fucking dad's bedroom written in cursive, yeah? Because I'm telling you, he's still here, man. He's still there. He's still that player. He shows up, and he just when he's on form, he's a 92 rated, team of the season, 98 rated type card, bro. He's an incredible player. He's a one-on-one player. His passing range is dynamic. The way he dribbles, his touch is fluid. He can shoot from range. He's a spaz. He's my favourite type of autistic. He will shoot against Spain at 28 yards. I love it. You know what I mean? It's my favourite style of autism. Outside, yeah, and it's just what I live for. Is Palmer in the 10, Enzo and Caicedo holding down the midfield, bossing it. Enzo going up and making the executive decisions where Caicedo's doing the dirty work, playing the balls through. I can see it now. It's the Chelsea I fell in love with as a kid, and it's the Chelsea I'm back in love with now, man. It all revolves around that midfield, that defensive midfield, and it's looked better than it's looked since we won a Champions League. So I'm so impressed this season with our midfield. And I feel like it doesn't get spoken about enough. We're fourth, we're fifth in the Premier League. We were supposed to come 6th, 7th. You know what I mean? We were supposed to not be in the question. We were considered in a title race around Christmas. I think we've had a good season, personally. I think we could have done better, but I'm proud of where we are now. And I think, once again, it all stems from that defensive midfield.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think that midfield trio has been phenomenal. And yeah, I'm a strong advocate. I really, really like Romeo Lavia. And I could sit here and talk for hours about how much I like Caicedo as well. Before I tell you my three, where's do you still think? I mean, even with the dip in form, and I mean, I know he is still our talisman. You know, he hasn't been the same player this year. Do you still feel that Cole Palmer's best role is that 10, or do you think he might be better suited in this situation? If we are looking to recruit in the summer, we might be better off recruiting in the 10 and moving him out wide, or do you reckon we are better off looking, well, as the speculation suggests, at another winger and keeping him down the middle?
No, I like him in the middle. I don't like him out wide. I like him in the middle where he's fully creative. I feel like it plays into his strengths, which is his creativity, his passing range, his shots. And I feel like when you and the fact that he can play off with both feet, which is something that I don't think we speak about enough, is how technically gifted he is with his left as well as his right. And I think that when you can restrict him onto one side, yeah, he can do all the twists and turns, but you know, he can't just spin and swing it the other way, which he can in midfield. So I I like him in a more central role in a direct 10. I don't want him up top. I like him where he is. I think he's one of the best in the world in that position. I think he should have been playing there for England as well. In the on the right side of two tens. So yeah, I think that he has to stay where he is at the minute, and I think we should recruit out wide if we're going to look to recruit.
Fair enough. Well, I couldn't break that midfield trio apart.
Yeah,
So I've gone for the double base of Caicedo and Lavia and Enzo in ahead of him. Obviously, last season I would have gone Enzo deep alongside Caicedo, but I think this year he has added that crasher to his game. Obviously, we spoke very briefly about how much he's already improved. I would definitely give him the most improved player this season in this squad. But yeah, I've had to move Cole Palmer outright to facilitate that.
yeah,
Obviously, there was no way I was going to try and keep you on tenterhooks, but there was no way that Cole Palmer
yeah, no,
wasn't going to be in this 11. Let's not kid
yeah, for
ourselves.
sure.
But I'd shift Cole Palmer on that right side, and you know what? I do echo and I do agree with everything that you've said in terms of his best position. And if you put him on the right, you are limiting him. He is able to use his right. His best position. His best position is when he has that Aiden Hazard type role, when he is able to just sense where and when the game needs him, because he is, well, as you so lovingly put it, he's football intelligent. He's not, he's not boardroom intelligent.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he does have the ability to. I mean, even against Newcastle, we saw him a couple of times trying to thread that $1 million pass on in the second half, and it was inches away from coming off a couple of times. So it's difficult to not put him in that role. But for the sake of limiting him when he's out on that right, not being able to cut in and pearl him in with his right foot. I think although you are limiting him on that right side, he's good enough to do a role. And it will be incredibly interesting because although we both do agree that he's better in the middle, Esteval Willian coming in the summer, we all assume he's going to play off the right. He has said multiple times he wants to play in the centre. We also know that there were a lot of proposals, a lot of clubs in to sign Esteban Willian, and the proposal was based around him. We basically would have said, yes, we will do what you want. Yes, we will facilitate your growth. So depends where he plays, depends where he wants to go, depends where he fits into Maresca's system, but it will definitely be interesting. So you have two players left.
yeah.
I
Three.
have gone.
I
Oh,
got
sorry. Yeah,
I got my top three.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you've got Palmer. I've got two players left. You've got three. So I will. I'll see to you. Go on. Who's
So
your
I
who's
think
who's your front three?
Yeah, I think you've done the smart thing in terms of being able to fit in Lavia, because I definitely prefer Lavia to pretty much any of the options out wide, and I think that if I was to try and squeeze in the best players that I could, I would have done something very similar to what you've done. But keeping it in terms of like an actual 11 and like putting them in their positions that I like them at, I'll keep Palmer in the 10. And I think out wide on the right, I'm going to put Noni Madueke. I think that, as you said, the improvements that he's had from last season to this one, even from October to December, that little 3 month stretch, I feel like he showed a lot, and I think that he's kept that up. Obviously, we've had a couple of poor games against, even like the one against Brighton, which I thought he was the only person really trying on that pitch, and I think that comes off a lot of the time. Sometimes when we let our head down and we go down 1-2 goals, especially during that dry little 3 month patch that we had, which was brutal, 1 win, 1 loss, it felt like Madueke, yeah, his mentality isn't the best. I feel like he's a little bit explosive and in not the right way. But that shows character. It shows a player that wants to win. And although that can be detrimental, I like the mentality. I think that he's backed it up with some wonderful performances. And if you were to pick individual performance of the year, you could argue him versus Wolves is up there. So based on the fact that he's had some great performances this season, based on the fact that he stayed relatively consistent, and he's come from relative, obscurity into a Premier League name. I would say I don't think there were many people who knew who Noni Madueke was at the beginning of last season, but at the beginning of this season, I can imagine not many. So for him now to be, that's a Chelsea player. I've seen a Madueke shirt in town. He's a football player. He's really a Premier League baller, and I think that he's earned that in this season. And yeah, I think that on the right hand side, it has to go to him. And I'll say the left wing for last, because I feel like that's the hardest one to choose from. But up top is Nicholas Jackson. I know he's coming off of not an amazing game. It's probably the worst time to be talking or be praising Nicholas Jackson right now, because I'm quite livid with him. but he's been great all season. You know, his link up, his distribution, his little touches, his passing, his vision, man. His vision. I'm not talking like seeing passes before they're made. I mean, like, assessing damage, like smelling it out like a little bloodhound, and forcing centre-backs into making mistakes. Like winning that penalty the other day. That's all. No, that was Caicedo, weren't it? Sorry, it's a bit mad. But stuff like that I see all the time from Nicholas Jackson. You're hounding out the centre-back who's got the ball, making him pass to the full-back, turning around, pacing it to him. And they cause mistakes, and I love that from Nicholas Jackson. And even the passion, you know, the celebrations, the wanting to be it, the blue hair, you know, he loves Chelsea. And I think that Chelsea are loving him back. And when you look at the other options that we've had up top this season, it's like, do you know what I mean? He's that 20-year-old kid. He's played 6 games in the Conference League, bag a hat-trick against a bunch of plumbers. It's not going to be him, is it? So I've got to give it to Nicholas Jackson. On the left...
We've only got a couple of minutes, so yeah, close us out with your left wing.
I'll keep it quick. But left wing, it's between, for me, Pedro Neto and Jadon Sancho, and I think that I've made it abundantly clear over the last couple of weeks. I'm a big Jadon Sancho fan, and I think that his technical ability is great. You know, Tyreek George maybe didn't get enough time, especially on the left. He's a right-sided player, as far as I'm aware. So I don't think that it would be right slotting him out. I think Sancho is just so good at beating a man, running a man, confidence against other centre backs. I think Jadon Sancho is my left winger for this season.
Really?
Yeah.
Fair enough. See, I thought you would have gone the other direction. If I was going to change one player, it would have been obviously taking Lavia out, shifting Enzo back, shifting Palmer into the centre, and then probably having Neto on the right. But as it stands, I've obviously gone Palmer on the right and Madueke on the left. And I've got to say, for the foreseeable, I continue using him on that left side. I've been really impressed with him ever since he switched over to that flank during the Everton game. And I think he did well again against Newcastle. Not fantastic, not as good as he had previously, but he definitely did. He definitely did a job. And obviously, since we last spoke, Charms, we have progressed into the Conference League final. So next week, we're going to have to get onto that in terms of European predictions. We've got an all-English Europa League final. We've got a fantastic prospect of Inter Milan versus PSG to look forward to as well as, Chelsea versus Real Sociedad. I'm not sure. We got an allocation of 12,000. I'm not sure. I'm going to try and go. And if I do, we'll see if we can get some match day content for you. But I'm not getting my hopes up. A trip to Rocklaw doesn't really seem on the cards at this point. But yeah, Charms, any closing thoughts for the people?
Not much, man. Just tap in for Friday. We're going to have a real special shopping out with Charms. I've been doing my homework for this one, guys. It's going to be about the Premier League standing in Europe and how we face up. Well, how the teams in the Premier League stack up against teams around Europe. And I think that we don't credit the Premier League enough. I feel like we don't credit the Championship enough. I think like there's a lot to say about English football that doesn't get said enough. And, you know, fucking 3 lions on a shirt. I might be a little bit patriotic and whatnot, but I still, to this day, will bleed the fact that I think England is the best base for football. If you come to this country, you're testing your mettle. And we'll get into it a little bit more on Friday, but got a banger ahead of us, lads. So just stay in touch for that.
100%, man. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, at Two Blues Podcast on the Instagram and the TikTok. Up the Chelsea. We'll see you very, very soon.